Hey y'all, welcome back to All About April. I am so excited to discuss with you this particular book today. Now, this episode is going to be a book review on none other than The American Queen by Vanessa Miller. Now, I'm going to go on ahead and tell you this is actually based on a true story. And that was one of the things that really captured my attention in regards to this book, because I'm like, hold up, this actually existed? Yes. So what happened? Well, slavery ends, and there are many people on these farms and plantations who no longer want to be a part of this society that formerly existed. They want to begin their own. They are free. However, slave owners are not trying to hear freedom by any means. They want these people tied to their lands by any means necessary, okay? And they do everything to be able to keep them oppressed. However, there are people like Luella. Luella really is the star of this story. Luella is strong. Luella is intelligent. And Luella also is the mastermind behind everything. And I'm just so very appreciative that I got to experience this book to see exactly how she was able to come up with this society for the freed people. Now, nonetheless, there has been trauma faced by many of the people. For one, Luella, her mom was sold away from her. Number two, she sees her dad tragically killed. And number three, she is, brutally beaten as well. But she ultimately marries a man named William, who was a pastor, and a lot of people gravitate to both of them. Let me go on ahead and say this too. William may have been the more docile character, but Luella was never willing to conform to any parts of enslavement. And I want to be clear with that, because a lot of people think that, oh, slaves, they just accepted whatever, they didn't have the heart to leave. Do y'all really understand what was happening at that time? So to see Luella, a woman who was able to read and write, really have the mind and the presence to consider what life could be like for her, to continue to dream. It was actually really beautiful. So how do they do this? They actually leave and they head east towards South Carolina, Georgia area, and they formulate their own town known as the Happy Place. At the Happy Place, everybody contributes within their society. And then you get your home, you get food, and so forth. This was the plan that Luella had, and William ultimately co-signed with. Now, on the other hand, they also have a brother. William has a brother, and his brother pretty much is just about white passing in many aspects. But we are also learning that even though a lot of people are freed, they do not respect Luella, and by they, I'm talking about men. Now, you would think after being enslaved for, a good bit of time, that freedom may change your perspective, but it did not. Many of the men challenged Luella, despite her having them led to safety in a whole new area. And I thought that it was very interesting, and not surprising, but just interesting, that they weren't as appreciative of all that she had to offer them. Now, that could be for many reasons. It could be for jealousy. It could be because they didn't have that standing. It could just be that, they were used to conforming to a man in charge of them. Nonetheless, this is something that we see play out in the book multiple times from Robert and also from other men. Now, something tragically happens to William, and that leads Robert to taking over. And when Robert takes over as the new king, because the people have declared Luella and William, the king and the queen of Happy Place. They've trusted them. These people are living in their homes, they're working, they are contributing to society. It's working. But, you know, once William gets sick and Robert ultimately has to take over, he is not really willing to work with Luella in the ways that William does. And he also recruits some people to do things his way. Not to mention, Robert is living on a whole other side of town. So nobody really knows what's going on with Robert because he's not living close enough to actually participate within the Happy Place society. Almost as if he feels that he is better than them, especially being that he is so close or has, you know, passed as white. Both William and Robert have fathers who were former, you know, slave owners. So as all of this is happening, you know, we also see that Robert has a particular gambling issue. And this gambling issue is going to come to a head within the Happy Place, to the point where it also damages or could also ruin what the Happy Place has presented to so many people. Now, one of the things that I also appreciated about the Happy Place was there were some people who realized, you know, living there, it was great, but with the railroads coming through and other technology advancements, that they wanted to try something else. And you never saw Luella or William like chastise them or tell them that they had to stay at the Happy Place. And that's something that we know was very common with enslavement. These people were always wished well. And I just loved and appreciate the fact that even though they wanted to move on with their lives, that they were given the grace and the ability to be able to do so. And that's not even something we see with a lot of jobs. So when we talk about the Happy Place, like, it truly is a place for you to embrace everything that's happening. When you have children, when you get a job, when someone passes away, the community support was so strong. And that's also such a necessary part after the Civil War has ended and Reconstruction has taken over. Nonetheless, something happens with the land with Robert that's gonna force Luella and many of the other people to take action. And once again, we see the strength and the knowledge of Luella. And it just really allows me to embrace that she truly was the American queen. Y'all, I love this book. And I'm gonna even take a stand and say that this is probably going to be one of my favorite reads of 2024. To know that this was based on a true story and these people really took what they had and just created something new, despite people feeling like enslaved people did not have the ability to create anything without the assistance of plantation owners or farmers or planters, whatever you want to call them. But they have shown that this is what they've always done. They've managed the farms and plantations. They've managed other people. They've managed crops. They've managed families. So sure, they will be able to create and manage their own city. And just the beauty in seeing success so soon after becoming freed, it's definitely a historical fiction read that should be on your bookshelf, but that you absolutely should read, take in, and just know that this is something that our descendants encountered and they won. They won. And I was happy to be able to be a part of that read in the process. So I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this book. Y'all, go on ahead and grab it, okay? Go on ahead and grab it right now. I loved it. I think you will too. And one more thing. like William, even in the book, he sometimes questioned Luella and sometimes took the side of men, including his brother Robert, over Luella, and you see how that plays out in the book later on. But this also goes to show that we really have to trust the people who have the knowledge, the spirit, and the influence to really carry us through those times where we are unsure if we can or will make it. And people trusted Luella, especially the women. They trusted her. And I just love that they embraced that this was their time to live unafraid and as free people. So make sure you go on ahead and grab The American Queen, this based on a true story. And the author, Vanessa Miller, she actually talks about in the author's note, like how she came to be with this particular story. So let me know if you have heard about this book, if you plan on reading this book, or if you actually have read this book, because, you know, I'm all open in the comments for that. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm still a little overwhelmed about this book because it was much better than I could have actually anticipated. And I hope that this, you know, catches on to others, because I definitely think that this is a story that I am so happy was actually told. With that being said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I can't wait to share with you what's next, and I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.